Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Presents from My Aunts in Pakistan by Moniza Alvi. I'm going to take you through 5 key moments from the poem, analysing those quotations for language, structure and form. Grab your flashcards and let's get started. Okay, starting with the opening of the poem. They sent me a salwar kameez, peacock blue, and another glistening like an orange split open. So first of all, let's have a little look at both the third person pronoun they. So we're not told who this is. This is a sort of other, sort of kept at a distance. And I think what's interesting about this is also the active voice, where they is the subject of the sentence, and the narrator of the poem, the memory of her as a teenager, Moniza Alvi, is the object. So there's almost a sort of sense of powerlessness, sort of she's sat in England and she's got these gifts being sent to her. It's not that they have been requested. Not to say that she's not grateful, but she's not asking for them. So they sent me a salwar kameez, peacock blue. So we've got really vivid colour imagery here, peacock blue, then you've got the orange. And actually, if you wanted to continue that idea, if you look at the rest of the next few lines, you've also got gold, black, candy striped as well. So you can actually look at how all of the colours to describe the salwar kameez are really, really, really bright and beautiful. And another glistening like an orange split open. So we've got this simile here. Now glistening as a verb has quite positive connotations. It's the idea of it almost sparkling and shining. But then you've got this quite sort of violent verb, the idea about being split open. And that's quite interesting because this poem is about someone feeling torn, feeling split. So even the imagery that she's using to describe the clothing itself has these kinds of sort of violent connotations about the way it makes her feel. And again, just like with the colours, if you want to take that idea and run it through, the next stanza or the next few lines has some similar ideas. So we've got candy striped glass bangles snapped, drew blood. So yeah, if you want to continue those sort of violent connotations to juxtapose with the beauty, again showing that sense of contrast and conflict, that's quite a good one. And here you can see the fragmented lines. I talked about this in the other video on form, but again, this idea about being split, that's why all of the lines are like this. A little bit more on the outfits and focusing more on the way they make her feel. So I try each satin silken top. We've got a lovely compound adjective here, satin silken. That's why we've got the hyphen, making it compound. But it's very, very sibilant. And that in itself is quite mimetic of the sound that satin and silk make. It's that sort of rustling sound. But satin and silk, you're also thinking about quite luxury items, suggesting sort of worth and value. But the impact that it has on her is described in this metaphor, that she felt alien in the sitting room. And note there's this juxtaposition between familiarity and unfamiliarity. The sitting room is a place of familiarity, yet she feels alien. So when she wears the clothes, she feels out of place in her English surroundings. Now I've skipped a few little bits out to get to the next part that is to do with her feelings about wearing the clothing. So we've got my costume clung to me. So we've got a bit of personification there and the idea of it clinging. You could argue that it's metaphor as well. Costume, she's not seeing it as clothing, she's seeing it as playing a role, like it being an act, it not really being her. And then the sort of negativity again, as well as the claustrophobia in that verb clung, like she can't get away from it. But you've also got that negativity through that quite harsh plosive alliteration of the costume clung. And I was aflame. So we've got metaphor. You can say it's hyperbole as well. And I couldn't rise up out of its fire. So that's interesting. So this version of the fire, I was aflame, is her embarrassment, isn't it? It's her cheeks blushing. But then you've also got its fire, as in the clothing's fire. So she's basically saying she isn't strong enough to wear those bright colours. She's not strong enough to, like a phoenix, little illusion there, rise up out of the fire. Because if you think in that illusion of a phoenix burns and then rises again, and she's saying, I can't do that. That suggests that therefore she is consumed by it. So quite powerful imagery. Skipping along slightly later on in the poem, in this part of the poem, she starts reflecting on cultures in both Lahore, Pakistan, and the UK, and we get this kind of juxtaposition. Now, you'll remember from my context video that her mum is from England and her father is from Pakistan. So she says, my mother cherished her jewellery. So we've got this emotive verb. And then that idea of it being cherished is emphasised through the triad of adjectives that suggest beauty: Indian gold, dangling, filigree. Filigree is about the kind of net, like the wires that are all sort of formed together to create intricate patterns. But this, in what she's saying here, is that the beautiful jewellery that come from her home, that is given to her mother, who is English, is really, really cherished. So she's comparing herself to her mother, perhaps with a bit of guilt that she's not able to cherish the beauty of the clothes. And then you've got this sort of stark juxtaposition, almost kind of anticlimax, almost a little bit of bathos with a B, but it was stolen from our car. And perhaps that's also a little bit of criticism about crime in the UK as well. And then we have another kind of juxtaposition here. So we have the presents were radiant in my wardrobe. So she's going back to her experience. And again, we've got more emotive language here in this adjective. The presents were radiant, so incredibly beautiful. And again, there's this idea of this glow, this shine coming from them. My aunts requested cardigans from Marks and Spencer. So again, another juxtaposition and another cultural reference. Marks and Spencer's being very much associated with British shopping, and the idea of cardigans as well. It seems quite ordinary, and it fits in with a line earlier on in the poem where she says that she longed for denim and corduroy. So her aunts are requesting the same kinds of things that she wants to be wearing at home. Okay. And then as the poem progresses, she starts thinking about her homeland and what she knows of it. So she's quite reflective in tone here as she tries to picture her birthplace from 50s photographs. And we've got this juxtaposition now between thinking of the place when she was young and then like a baby, and then the knowledge that she has when she's older. So you've got birth to older here for some juxtaposition. There was conflict, a fractured land throbbing through newsprint. So we've got two metaphors there. Fractured land. Now this is an allusion to the Bangladesh War in 1971. So she's thinking about reading news of conflict, of war, from where she's from, but from the UK. And note the way, I mean, obviously fractured is an interesting metaphor because it suggests a conflict and things being broken up, which is again very much about how she's feeling. But the metaphor that it throbs through the newsprint shows how intensely she reacts, that it's almost like, you know, blood rushing through her veins. You know, it's like, you know, when you get a cut and you can feel this sort of throbbing. So it demonstrates just how much impact this has on her. And then the very last part of the poem, I'm sorry, I haven't put the lines above, but the moments before, she's picturing her aunts in shaded rooms wrapping presents screened from male visitors. So again, another kind of comment about the culture in Pakistan. And then what we have here is this kind of idea of her imagination. So she imagines that, and then she thinks, or there were beggars, sweeper girls. So she's sort of imagining two kinds of different ways of life in Pakistan, a kind of a life that is, yes, screened from men, but comfortable in their own homes, or the people who are homeless or sweeping the streets for pennies. So this is very much fixed in her imagination, but then she actually plonks herself in it, hypothetically, it's not real, it is metaphor, and I was there, of no fixed nationality. Now, here is a brilliant moment to look at those fragmented lines, because she's talking about herself being unfixed, that she doesn't fit, and that's why the line is almost split straight down the middle, and then again doing it here. staring through fretwork at the Shalimar Gardens. So again, we've got the enjambement helping us with the fragmented lines, and again focusing us in here on staring through fretwork. Fretwork is like imagine fences, but you can beautifully ornate, and you can sort of see through the gaps in them. Have a little look. Go and have a little look at some images online if you're not sure. Staring through fretwork at the Shalimar Gardens. Now, the Shalimar Gardens are a huge and beautiful gardens in Lahore in Pakistan, where she was born. And so she is imagining herself staring through this fretwork into something beautiful. So this is really symbolic of this feeling of being an outsider, of not quite fitting one way or the other, of always being on the outside looking in, and looking in through fretwork, not even with clear vision. So it's massively symbolic of her feelings of discomfort and that kind of not quite knowing where she fits. It's again this idea about cultural identity. That's it from me. It's quite a tricky poem, but hopefully that was useful and you've made loads of notes on your flashcards. If you've got any questions or comments, or you want to just agree or disagree with any of my interpretations, then do please get in touch in the comments and I will get back to you. Hope that was helpful. Thank you again. Happy revising.